welcome everyone. This is the KPPA Ad Hoc Budget Committee special meeting. It's September 22nd, 2025, and I call it to order. So can we start with the opening statement, Ms. Hale?
Yes, sir. This is a special called meeting of the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority Ad Hoc Budget Committee. This meeting is being broadcast via video teleconference pursuant to Kentucky Revised Statute Section 61.826 and may be viewed by the public at the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority offices located at 1260 Louisville Road, Frankfort, Kentucky. It is also being broadcast to the public via Facebook. If you are speaking and not appearing by video, please identify yourself before talking. Please ensure that you are on camera when making or seconding a motion or casting a vote. In the event the video or audio broadcast is interrupted, we will attempt to reestablish a connection. If a connection cannot be reestablished within 30 minutes, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled to another date.
Thank you. Ms. Rankin, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. O'Mara
Here.
and Mr. Lane.
Here.
Thank you.
And is there any public comment today?
Yes, sir. We received one public comment, and I will read that. This comes from a Jerry Waddell, and he states as follows. Since the economy is in such bad shape, we the people of CERS have not received a raise in years. Is there going to be any raises in the near future? I'm 70 years old on Social Security. It's getting hard to make ends meet. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the comment. We will pass that on to KPPA. And next, we will do the approval of meeting minutes. So do I have an approval for the KPPA special called Ad Hoc Budget Committee of August 29th, 2025?
I would make the motion that we approve the minutes, and they were accurate and detailed and well done. Thank you.
And I'll second. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's kind of hard to do when there's only two of us, but thank you. Next, we'll turn it over to Mr. Lamb for him to go over the 2026 through 28 biennium budget. Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. O'Mara. At the end of the last meeting, we did get the budget office number. It was $50 million. And then when we were walking through the spreadsheet, we noticed that that was a little bit lower than we needed based on our current budget discussions that we were having. So I wanted just to revisit that topic for just a minute, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And screen 2 it is. Is the Excel document visible?
It is.
Okay, great. So again, this number in red was the budget office's baseline number for fiscal year 27 and fiscal year 28. And so we have that here. These numbers that we walked through and discussed, I did have follow-up meetings with with various groups of people. We did take out the hearing officer line item of $270,000. I've confirmed with the CERS and KRS CEO on the legal costs for their respective counsel. I've detailed the miscellaneous contracts out here on the right related to this $700,000 and this $250,000, and confirmed with IT that these numbers represent their anticipated spend for those years, and travel as well for the investment office as well as KPPA in general. So that left us a little bit short on our number given to us from the budget office. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. I asked where that number came from. We did get $149,000 for fiscal year 26 added to our budget for the personnel cabinet's assessment of certain IT positions. They went ahead and gave us that $149,000 in 27 and 28. And when I asked, hey, that seems a little bit low, our internal calculations kind of indicated that that might cost us around $750,000 each fiscal year. The response I got back was, yes, that's true, but the reduction in the retirement rates for 27 and 28 way offset that additional $750,000 of anticipated personnel costs or salary costs for those positions. And when I did my own calculation related to retirement costs of our employees, the percentage that we pay into the system as an employer of the system, I came up with a large number, like $1.4 million of savings in that. So it was very difficult for me to argue with the budget office on the number that they gave me. And so I started looking at what other line items we could work on to reduce this deficit, so to speak, that we're planning, that has been, in our budget. So first thing I did was I started playing around with the full-time budgeted people. So in 26, we're budgeted for 273 full-time people. Our cap is at 284. The budget office is giving me baseline numbers for all 284 people within our cap, including the 14 vacant positions that we currently have. And knowing through our budget process that we don't always fill up to our cap because we have turnover. At times, certain positions are difficult to fill. And so we're never going to be always at our cap. So I crunched a few numbers and calculated a 97% adjustment. Let's just assume we were at 97% cap on average for 27. And if we were at 97.5% for 2008, we would have sufficient funding for 27 and 28, leaving just 168,000 of reserve or unallocated amount and 36,000. So I've taken all of that into consideration. I've discussed it with the executive team, and I've me and my team have begun to put this into the KBUD system. And most of that is in there. The next thing I wanted to share was probably this memo, which I would present to the KPPA board on Thursday upon your ratification of it today, or your approval of it today. But basically, here's the work group. Here's the recommendation, budget submission of $50,115,600. Again, that's the number that the budget office has given me. We also have a capital planning submission as part of K-budget this year, which we've discussed, of $75 million. That's broken out into the next 3 biennium. And so the only document for fiscal year 27 and 28 is the $15 million. And I'll show you a copy of that in a moment. And then part of my discussion today was, do we need to maybe proceed with requesting additional funding for maybe that $1 million that we're short in general without taking into consideration turnover, et cetera. And so that can go on this memo, or it can't, or it doesn't have to. So that's part of my question for the 2 trustees today. I've also put this into a PowerPoint slide that walks through a little bit more. Again, this is the work group. This is the KPPA approved budget for fiscal year 26. And so the KPPA board approved this $49,969,700 for fiscal year 26. This is the additional money. Oops, I have a wrong number there. Well, wait, that's right, 145,900. That got me to the 50,116,000. That's our budget for 26, 50 million. And again, like I indicated, let me go to this side right here. They went ahead and give us that 50 million for each year, the budget office here. And I've reduced personnel costs in general by the 1 million and the 905, which is the 97%, the 97.5% for turnover. And that keeps me within budget without any reserve there. So I've just taken what we were short and reduced it that way. This is what the capital project form looks like. Let me see if I can increase that a little bit. This is a capital budget request -1. It's a summary of the project that we have in through the capital planning system. And this is the requested amount for fiscal year 27-28, the $15 million. And then this is what a budget request would look like if we started to pursue that. Again, these are just test numbers in here. These are required amounts that get given to us by the budget office. And then we also have to put in a 1% increase. That's utilized by LRC and the budget office to, calculate other things. So we put that in there. And then this would be if we did an additional ABR for dollars. Just draft numbers right now, etc. So that's what I would like to discuss with you. Any questions you have and any more information I can give you on justification for the ABR, lack of justification for the ABR, or any other questions you may have.
Mike, thank you for putting that out to you. Now, ABR stands for,
Additional budget request. And so
Okay.
that if we wanted to increase more than that 5115 million, we would have to do an ABR asking for that additional funding.
and do you have at your disposal today how much we were under our salaries the last maybe 2 or 3 years? Whatever is available to you.
I do. Give me just a moment. Let me put this one back up here. Let me unhide a few columns. I don't know if I have the amount we were under compared to the budget, but I do have the amount of salary. So let's just go back to fiscal year 24. We spent in actual 18 million in salaries, 35 total in personnel costs. 25, it was 34 million, 20 million in salaries. And you can see this retirement line item has kind of gone down a little bit each year. And then the budget amount here is 9.7 million and 26. The two salaries for 27 and 28 are going up. But again, the retirement's going up also. That's just because we got 284 persons being budgeted for. That's why it's up. But if we were budgeting for 270 or back in 25 when we were budgeting for 260, the rate is much lower in 27, 28. Does that help a little bit? I
It
think.
does.
I
But
have.
you don't have it compared to budget. That's what
I probably do. Let me give me one second. Come on.
I tell you what, let me change the question if it's easier to answer. What was our total expenses under budget, total budget?
For
Whichever-
fiscal year 26
25.
or 25, I'm sorry. Yes.
I mean, whatever's easiest for you to off the cuff
Oh, yeah,
reach
yeah.
for.
Yes, I do have totals here. Okay, so this was the budgeted amount for 25, 48 million. We
Mhm.
spent 44 million. So we spent 90% of the budget. The year
Okay.
before that, we spent 88%. The year before that, we spent 82%. So yes, I have them in total, right, on this same
That's
chart.
fine. That's
Yep.
fine. That gives me point of reference. Pruitt, do you have questions at this juncture?
Well, we've had this conversation about why we over budget and then underspend. You as a budget expert maybe are closer to it, but I think that it gives us a forecause if we have a sudden technology issue or something that to go to the finance people. We have been underspending and we need to catch up. Just my thoughts on it, but so I would feel comfortable staying with the expectation that we're going to be under budget a little bit.
Well, I lean the same way. Given our history I hesitate asking for additional dollars unless they're specific for a certain line item.
Yeah. And we may
So-
be in that position with technology.
Yeah, so the executives and I have discussed what the justification for the ABR would be, and it really comes down to ancillary, I can't say that word correctly, costs related to personnel for the IT project. So yes, we're going to get capital funding for the firm or the vendor or whoever gets chosen to help us to modernize our system. But the current employees at KPPA will also be working on that system, and their day-to-day work will have to be backfilled either through overtime, reaching our cap of employees. Everyone pretty much has to level up in order to implement that system. So those are the costs that we've discussed internally that will go up at KPPA related to that IT project. And so that would be the justification in the ABR buildup that I would do and submit to the budget office.
Well, if I would ask, I understand that that's legitimate concern and legitimate identification of unique expenses during this capital project. But I would want to see how that number came about. $1 million is a round number, but is this many hours at this type of person? And just, I know it's hard to do that, but to ask for $1 million without some detailed support, I would ask for more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it. And I've been struggling with being able to specifically calculate what it's going to cost, right? If I
Right.
could assume everyone's going to work 10 hours of overtime in the IT department during the IT implementation, I could calculate that. But again, 10 hours is a guess. Is it 4 hours? Is it 2 hours? There's, I think what we could do is look at historical overtime in the last project 20 years ago, but that may be outdated.
Sure.
So yeah, there's,
I
It's-
think my thought to respond to Bill and both of you concerned about just a round number is I think there's a term out there called Kentucky windage. I think Mike, you're very capable of making some estimates that will may be high, may be low, but will give a little better support for that ADR.
Well, Mike, let me ask process questions. I hesitate approving something without more research or backup. And I see the level of difference between total budget and actual spend. Now, we're asking ourselves to take $1 million haircut to meet this 50 million. So I understand we already have that. So the room to absorb is diminished. But since we have been under, I think it's difficult for us to go and ask for an additional. What is the process that, at mid-year, we're in trouble. We need help here. What would we do?
My understanding is if you need additional funds mid-biennium or anytime within the biennium, there is a process where you can go to the budget office and request a budget addendum. Putting together all of the information that's required and justification for that, but there is a process. I have not experienced that process, but my understanding is there is a way to go get additional funding. There's obviously a review process from the state budget office, probably discussions with others in that process.
And And the next question is, your capital project of 15 million starts in 27, 28. Is that correct?
28, yes, fiscal year
Yeah.
28. So the second year of the first biennium, yes.
So again, how do we justify $1 million in the first year of the biennium? Question one, comma, question two, wouldn't the 15 million have that overtime and support cost as part of the project cost?
So question one, I have the same question. Should I maybe just ask an ABR for year two instead of year one with anticipated things? It's a good, great question. Question two, my understanding is the capital project planning is really for the external vendor costs of that system. So it would be the vendors' anticipated costs and their implementation specialists, et cetera. It does not cover our personnel costs related to that project.
Well, rock in a hard place when you're trying to look that far into the future.
No question.
Could I also add,
Yes, please.
an ABR is going to give KPPA, who doesn't use general fund money, only uses trust money. It gives the trustees the ability to spend. So it's permission to spend trust money. It's not that you have to spend it if you ask for an ABR. I think the more conservative approach is to ask for the ABR and not use it if you don't need it, and use it if you do need it, within the time frame of when you could decide, when you have more information. Going back later and asking for money is a little time consuming. John may have more, as having been the state budget director before. He may have some more experience with this. I've not had to do it either, but my understanding is that generally what you do is adjust forward spending. So you postpone projects, you don't backfill positions, you go with less to get to the end of the fiscal year to get new money. That's the more traditional approach to what happens if you run out of money than going and getting extra money. Although I do think that it's my understanding that it's a little bit more of a yes. If it's not general fund money, you don't have to get an appropriation of money that doesn't belong to us. But the ABR would, I think, do two things. One, it gives you the ability to spend money, but you don't have to do it. You're still going to go back every year to your budget team, to go back to your board to say, this is the plan for the money. Are we going to spend it? Are we going to put it in reserves and not spend it until we come back to you? That kind of thing. The other, it kind of hedges your bets on across the board cuts in the budget. This is going to be the first year in several budget cycles that it's going to be tight. And the likelihood that they'll go across the board and say everybody's going to be, last budget cycle, the across the board cut was, we're not going to provide any of your unfilled positions. And so for us, that was a significant cut. Even though ours was all general fund money, we still kind of get caught up in those across the board changes. So I think that's what an ABR would give you options. I'm sorry, Ron, go ahead.
Not general fund money.
Sorry, yes.
Well, let me throw a straw man out there for consideration, but I welcome conversation from everyone. Would $500,000 in 26, 27 and $1 million in 2028? I don't have a number and expertise to evaluate whether that is appropriate or not. It's just that since the project hadn't started yet, $1 million round number makes an impression on me, whereas something less than that would not make the same impression. So I just put that out for conversation.
Yeah,
I think it's Bill, I think it's very reasonable to go that route. Spending $1 million on the totally unknown is spending $500,000 is maybe less attention getting than $1 million on an unknown number.
Administration, I really welcome any comments you'd like to make.
So Rebecca, maybe talk through the capital plan. I think that would help center us. I think in the beginning it's going to be mostly planning. So if you could just talk through that, several budgets, that project, that might be helpful to center us.
Okay. Mike, join me if I misspeak on something. So one comment that you said, we really haven't started the project yet. The thing is, the internal team has. So the project is still, and we certainly are already working towards that. We're also getting our ducks in a row on pieces that we had planned to do over the course of the next 18 months, but because we know the project is coming up, we're kind of condensing that. So extra work, different changing resources around that stuff really has already started to prep to align with, to make sure our resources are available when we're ready with this vendor and the assessment. So the fiscal 26 that we're in right now, the rest of that and into a little bit of 27 will be this technical assessment. So we certainly, you guys have seen the strategic plan. We have a lot of ideas and processes to look at. If we really don't have to make a ton of changes, we absolutely have to change the underlying system, the underlying software development code. All of that is going to get looked at for 6 to 8 months by this external vendor. They're going to compare us. They're going to look at best practices, that kind of stuff. And then we're going to start prioritize different projects within that. And we're going to do that over the next several years. Obviously, one of them will have to be changing the underlying software, but it could also be, I don't know. I like for me, several silver bullets that I would love to see us do are a big, just an example of something that could be, is that we could push more employer reporting to employer self-service so that the employers could correct more of their errors. Right now, that's an in-house thing. That's one thing. Another possible major solution would be automated testing. We spend an awful lot of times internally testing through regression testing for every build. When we make major changes to the start system, we retest all the major functionality to make sure we're not killing something. When we have several thousand internal tests that happen automatically, you could expand that to be 10,000 internal tests or 20,000 internal tests so that we could skip doing that manual labor. Those are the kinds of things that we're going to be looking at. And so all those projects will start and get prioritized and come over the next several years. Then it will ramp up to the completion of the software upgrade, and the completion of some of those big wins, kind of bigger projects. And then as we get to some new normalcy where you're beginning to roll out the external vendor, that's where, it looks like a bell curve. So you're going to ramp up, you're going to be full on for the second biennium in this. And then in the third biennium, you'll start getting to the new normal, whatever that looks like. Does that kind of answer that question?
It helps a
Ryan?
lot.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
It
you.
does, yeah. I can visualize what you're talking about better now. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, well, my second straw man after listening. Okay, you focused me on the pre acceptance of an RFP, how much has to be done, how big the scope is. It's been decades since this system has been replaced. I talked to several staff last week at an event. Some of them seemed already stressed over this project. So I need to take your all's position at heart. So I'm going to step back and ask you all what number you think it should be. Should it be this million and a half, or would you recommend it being something different?
So Mike, we've talked about that. You have a specific recommendation?
I don't. I was just trying to get a calculation that kind of met the number that the budget office gave us at a high level, right? Taking Rebecca's comments into context and not being part of IT, I'm not aware of all the stuff going on in IT that's already happening. So I feel like that's important and should be considered. And this budget year is starting 27, so that's going to be July 1. And I think by then we, that's 6, 7, 8, 9 months away. We'll probably be very well ramped up and our people will probably be working. So I think, closer, I got to calculate it a little more, but I think that if the million is a scary number because it's $1 million, then I think something like a 750 would be justifiable as long as I got my numbers backing it up.
I kind of like 750. I feel like $500,000 is probably a little low. We will make work whatever the trustees need us to make work, and that will mean prioritize differently. I mean, obviously we can do that. I'm proud of the fact that we've not spent our budget for years and years. It's, I think it shows that staff is really committed to appropriate spending and not just spending because it's there. So I think historically you can look back at that and say, you can get permission to spend, but it doesn't mean that we'll spend it. We'll be prudent and appropriate with that. So I do like the 750, Mike, especially if $1 million is, and I do think $1 million is probably, I was going to say conservative, but what I mean is I think that's more than we might need in 27. So I like 750.
Well, I don't want to arbitrarily dictate something. I want to be supportive of the staff. So I hear you. I just, reasonableness, support wise, let's just have a number that we feel comfortable with.
Okay. The other thing with the ABR is it's got to go through the budget process, and we did one last biennium we looked for additional headcount, and we associated dollar amounts with that headcount, and it did not get approved. So even though we asked for the ABR, it didn't come through. We worked different channels to get the headcount increase through the budget office, which did happen. We didn't get money for that headcount increase last biennium. So they've now granted us that money through this baseline number that they've given us for 27 and 28. So Mr. Chilton has his hand up. Mr. Chilton, you're on mute.
Okay, here we go. It seems to me that there's some good thinking to wait until we have a clear idea of what we're requesting it for. Because if these amounts, 500, 750, or $1 million, turn out to be too low, it'll require a second request for an increase, which may be harder than the first one. So that would say we don't make a request right now. We wait until there's some clarity on the reasons for the increase.
Any other comments from anyone?
I mean, that's an interesting perspective. If we're not meeting our 284 budgeted positions, and because of turnover, we can't get those positions, we will be under in salary line item, which would accommodate the overtime that's being charged and the ancillary costs. But if we are and we're full, then Mr. Chilton makes a good point. Then we can come and say, hey, look, we need to increase our budget for these specific reasons because we're at capacity and we're spending at capacity.
And to clarify, you've already, in this budget proposal, reduced $1 million out of each year.
I did, in order to get to the 50.1.
Right.
Yes.
But that's basically a turnover number for not being fully staffed.
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah.
one argument would be that's what would support that.
Correct.
Yeah. And maybe just on that, right? So the baseline personnel number, it's common practice to have some assumption for lapse. So that 97.5 that Mike articulated that's common in budgets, and we'll certainly manage that. So I guess to Mr. Chilton's point, I mean, the reality though is this is a once in a 20-year type of project, and it's really hard to estimate that internal staff time. We'll manage to it. We'll obviously delay, as Rebecca said, reprioritize limited resources. But a budget is really kind of a ceiling. So that's kind of why we thought internally an ABR made sense. We may not be in a position to use it, but if we do, certainly moving forward on a capital project is going to need extra staff, right? I think we would all agree on that. So didn't really have an exact number, but that ABR would allow us to move forward with the project if it's mature enough at that point.
Anyone else? Well, Pruitt, I'm leaning toward the 750 number. Kind of seems to be the negotiated number. I don't want it to be arbitrary, even though it seems to be at today's discussion, but there was good discussion to come up with that. So I guess I would propose the 750 and the 1.5 when it's up and really at its peak.
I'm comfortable with both of those.
All right, we're good, Mike?
Yeah, that will help me. What I'll probably for the KPPA meeting, I may work just that. There'll be another chart that'll have an ABR number in here that will then show, what we're budgeted, what we're going to ask for by fiscal year, and then what that difference is. And I may not call it out as specifically as this line item. Maybe I'll put it in other personnel for some reason. But that's kind of what I'll try to look at in presentation wise, if you guys are okay with that.
Well, I want it to be transparent as to what
Sure.
we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I know you have to follow rules as far as submission. So whatever the way to explain it and get it properly approved, that's what I'm asking for.
That will be done. And then also I'll update this presentation based on this discussion with those numbers. I'll also update this Word document with an ABR amount in here broken out. And this will be what will go before the KPPA board if this is the agreement of this committee to bring that forward.
Okay,
I'm
I think,
comfortable.
is there a motion to approve the FY 26 to 28 biennium budget as presented and to forward it to the full KPPA board for its approval?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're on
Great.
other budget topics.
So the other budget topics is I did not last time we talked about maybe getting into some of the administrative budget stuff for fiscal year 27, and I would like to table that at this time. Take this KBUD number to the KPPA board to get our KBUD, and then come back, reconvene, and start talking about some of the other budget topics, including hybrid percentage allocation, classifications of certain budget line items, and any other budget topics. But today, my intent, and due to the limited time before October 1 and now, was to get approval on our KBUD submission. But open if you want to discuss anything at this time.
I'm open to your proposal. Pruitt, shall we look for one more meeting?
Yes, that'd be fine.
Would you want,
And that meeting would be after the KPPA.
Yeah, it would be sometime after October 1st. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
happen. It could actually happen a couple months from now, to be honest with you, because I would take the June 30, 2025 actual administrative expenses that are going in our financial statements in December and utilize that to calculate the hybrid percentage for next year. And then we can discuss the allocation of that, the creation of that, and really get into some of the details. I have those numbers. They're just not audited yet, but we could definitely start in October sometime for that. And we can table the exact date and have Sherry look at calendars and plan that out sometime in October or early November. Would be fine.
that'd be fine with me.
Well,
We could see when our key member is available, and maybe in the country.
I'll be in the USA. Well, that's with Delta Airlines willing.
Yes. Yeah, right. Well, then with that, since it's a special meeting, we have no further business. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, from
Thank you
wherever
all.
you